Alvaro, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. How about you?
Good, good. So this is going to be my fifth episode of Embracing Success. It's actually a podcast that I started to hold myself accountable and learn attributes from different individuals of what they've done to be successful in their career. I know that Embrace Home Loans actually just brought you on as Tampa's new branch manager, right?
Yep.
And you've been here for 3 weeks,
Yeah,
month?
about a month right now.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of them bringing on a monster when before I even met you, but you are like top 0.01% in the nation. I mean, in a down market, how many units did you close? And by units, I mean how many transactions?
We did a little over 200 last
200.
year.
That's crazy. Yeah. How long have you been in the mortgage industry?
So I've been in the industry for about 18 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done everything. I've done a broker. I've worked a year for a bank to kind of doing mortgages, and I'd be on this side of the end as a correspondent lender now for, at least 15 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course. So you did
Yeah.
broker side too, right?
Yeah.
And you went through the crash in '08.
Yes, I did.
So what would you? Because man, so many people tell me they're like, the market's gonna fall. It's whatever. I mean, like if you live in BFE, Idaho, maybe right. Like you
Right,
live
right,
on
right.
surrounding farmland and stuff. Like I could see there being a significant pullback. And even right now, like I had a deal that I'm putting in today, and the person is getting the full 3% seller concessions on the max amount that what they can do for the amount for conventional. For what they're putting down. So, what do you think? Is there a difference between the crash in '08 versus today that may or may not you agree with the people of wanting to get off the sidelines?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge difference, though. It's a great question, by the way. And I get asked that question all the time.
Hmm.
I mean, remember back in '08, I mean, there was really no compliance. I mean, you can literally be the lender, the realtor, the appraiser, the title agent, and you can literally do the whole thing all in the same office, right?
Yeah.
So now there are, regulations set in place in order to avoid.
Yeah, Dodd Frank.
Right, to any type of misrep, any type of the loan. So, and plus in today's too, I mean, everything being regulated, us checking all the pay stubs, checking all the tax returns, checking everything,
Hmm.
to ensure that we don't go through the same thing.
Sure.
And now too, I mean, there's no such thing as depending down payment assistance and VA loans, but you cannot really add your closing costs on top of it. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's one of the huge issues. So remember, we had an appraisers, they were not regulated. Right. So, I mean, you had a home being appraised one day for 200 and 2 weeks later, 250.
Yeah.
Now you were able to add your closing costs on top of it. You wanted to do any type of remodeling, like adding a pool, you put on top of it. So guess what? You're buying a house for 250, and now you owe the lender, you owe the bank 300,000. I mean, so any adjustment to the market,
Yeah.
you're already like way above, underwater.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a really easy way to understand like how corrupt, and I don't even know if it's corrupt, but just like how gray the area was is to
Right.
watch
The Big
the
Short.
Big Short.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Like my favorite part is like when he goes into the strip club and he's like, "How many homes do you own?" She's like, "5, and I'm gonna probably buy one tomorrow." He's like, "What do you do to qualify?" She's like, "Nothing. I don't know."
But that actually truly happened. I
Yeah.
mean, there are a lot of loans. Remember the ninja loans, like the Ninas, the CISAs. So Ninas like no income, no assets,
Yeah.
and then we had a bank that came up with a ninja loan, which pretty much that's what it was. They didn't verify, income, assets. They pretty much just checked to make sure if you had a pulse.
Hmm.
It was insane. Yes, rates are higher and things like that, but there was no regulation put in place, which it's completely different today. I mean, we live in Tampa.
Yeah.
So if you look at Hillsborough, Pasco, Pinellas County, right now, and on top of it, COVID changed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? You have a lot of people from the East Coast, the West Coast, they're cooped up in the apartment, and they had no yard. You're snowing half of the year, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to live life this way. So what they're doing is they all working remote, and everybody's moving to Florida.
Yeah.
So now what's happening is we have way too many people that
You have
want to
no
buy
state
houses.
income tax either, which is a huge benefit.
Exactly. And look at the weather. I
Yeah.
mean, it's beautiful out today. You and I are wearing a jacket right now, but
Oh, it's
it's
hot.
perfect. Was I
70 something.
exactly right? And I'm sure if somebody from up north look at us, they'd be like, "Why are they wearing a jacket? It's a perfect weather out."
Yeah. So going back to, do you think it's a good time to buy? Or I think we were kind of talking about like, there's no way that the market's going to crash, right? There might be a slight pullback, I would say,
Hmm.
if at all, but we still have appraisals are based off of the prior 6 months,
Correct. Correct.
currently sold stuff. So
Right.
in case people really start giving up, doing price reductions and stuff, and even still, I'm seeing more seller concession than price reductions, right? Like you can negotiate that, which is a huge benefit today.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't really see it. I actually see a great benefit too because, like what the Fed did in their last speech is people are anticipating 3 rate cuts all the way up to 6, I think. I think I
Right.
even heard 8 at one point, but that's probably not going to happen. But, with elections and everything else coming around, I know that the little people up in the higher up powers are going to try to do something to say, look what I did.
Right. Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
now kind of going back to what you were saying with the ninja loans, right? No income verification loans. We actually have something like that today. It's called a
Right.
DSCR, debt service covering ratio loan.
Correct. But it's different in a way, right? So I mean, it's still the appraisal is still regulated, right?
Yep.
But yeah, but it's a great product. It's a great segue for an investor,
Yep.
right? But there's the difference. On a Ninja loan back in the day, it was 0% down, so you didn't have to put a dime down, and you could actually roll it in all your closing costs into the loan.
Yeah.
So the DSCR, the reason it's an amazing loan, it's because it's a loan for an investor, but you do need to put 20 to 25% down.
Yep.
And all the closing costs must be paid at closing. So anything happens, any corrections in the market or whatnot, you still above water.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say if the market corrects at 2%, a percent or whatnot,
Sure.
you still have a ton of equity. And then remember, that's the difference between today and what's happening now. And just kind of going back and chiming in what you said as far as, the market and people able to finance and get closing costs and whatnot. So the reason why I think it's a great time to buy, because if you want to purchase and you don't want to spend that much money towards down payment and closing costs,
Yeah.
because where rates are, even though they've dropped a lot from 4 to 5 months ago, now we can go back to the seller and say, hey, guess what? Hey, I'll buy your house, but I want you to pay all my closing costs.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, like I said, the one that I'm putting in right now, they're putting 3% down. They're getting 3% back. So their cash, and it's a $430,000 house. Their cash to close is $12,000.
That's exactly my point. Now think about this, right? So you and I are constantly seeing more and more people applying. So even though we're not seeing sales skyrocketing, the whole media has a thing, oh, nobody's purchasing, which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening right now, because unfortunately we have a huge issue of affordability, right? So people are still purchasing homes, but here's the thing, here's the kicker. So even though I do believe rates not going to come down as fast as most people are expecting.
I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah. But think about this. If rates adjust 3/8 of a point, 0.5%, now you have a whole like 22 to 25% of the whole country now can actually afford to purchase a house. So let's go back to Florida, right? We got everybody moving out here. Now we have a huge issue of we don't have enough houses for everyone.
Yeah.
So if the demand goes up because now rates drop and more people can afford it, what's going to happen to home prices?
Sure. They're going to jump.
They're going to
skyrocket.
jump.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be even worse.
It's just like the same thing in 2020, although the rates weren't where they were, but like, it's like the stock market, right? When it's red, you buy. When it's
Right.
green, you cash out. So
Right.
right now, the housing market looks red, right? But I
Right.
mean, it's a great time to buy.
Yeah, but look, if you go back to Warren Buffett says, right, when people are being fearful, be greedy, and when people are being greedy, be fearful.
Yep.
I mean, people are being fearful now. So why not try to go back and go to the seller and say, hey, guess what? You want your house for X amount of dollars. I'm willing to give you this, and I want you to pay my closing costs. I'm not saying he's going to agree to it,
Yeah.
but at least we have a starting point.
Sure.
You know, so that's something to think about. And once again, as rates starting to come down, now you may not be able to get closing costs. You may not have that negotiating power because guess what? You not only have you and me looking buying a house, we have 10 other people bidding on the same house
Yeah.
because we don't have enough supply.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to get under contract. I moved around a lot, but I lived in Naples for 6 months. And I was
Right.
going to buy a house while I was
Oh, it's
there.
beautiful there.
And the purchase price was $450,
Right.
and it went for all cash $75,000 over. And I'm
Right.
like, come on, that person is still, they might not still be underwater, but I'd rather pay 2% higher
Right.
than an additional 75K.
Right.
I mean that it's crazy. So kind of to go back where we started on this, right? Embrace Home Loans brought you on board for a reason. You're a big producer, right? And again, this whole podcast or what I feel to be beneficial for anybody that watches it is how leaders in the community become successful. So you told me prior to this that you wake up at like 4:30 a.m. Is that right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, not by choice.
I go to bed sometimes at 4:30. I don't know about waking up. So what do you do? How do you start your day at 4:30?
So, I mean, one of the biggest things is I do try to go to sleep a little bit earlier,
Uh-huh.
which with two small kids,
Like 9 p.m.
10, yeah, the more sleep I do get, I mean, if I got 6.5, 7 hours, I'm golden,
Yeah.
right? So the whole reason why I wake up at 4:15, 4:30, because that's the only time I have to go to exercise, to go to work out,
Hmm.
and that's really how I start my day. I try to work out at least 5 to 6 days a week,
Sure.
and I do feel the difference when I do go to the gym, when I do work out, when I go running outside or do any type of activity. It just, I mean, scientific proven. I mean, you actually feel happier and
Yeah, it's a
it,
relief of endorphins and so forth, for sure.
right. So, and then I already start off my day as like, okay, I already accomplished something,
Yeah.
right? And then I literally go get ready, get my son to school, get a one-on-one talk, and I'm trying to, you know,
How old
have
are
a,
your kids?
so Luca is 5, and
Hmm.
then Mateo is 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so no more kids, even though the wife wants one more.
Yeah.
We have a lot of twins running in the family. I would love a
Uh,
third, but not four.
sure.
Right? So I'm not a gambler, and I don't want to go to that route.
Sure. And
So,
and you said they go to private school, so that's like a whole nother set of bill payments right there. You have to
right.
produce 400 loans a month or a
Yeah,
year.
you have to, and that's another thing too. Some people get motivated by that motivation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The funny thing is that's what every CEO or manager of some sort, they're like, oh, buy that Escalade, buy this, buy a house. I'm like,
Right.
why? They're like, because you'll have to work harder. I'm like,
E-
what?
Exactly, but it's that motivation. Some
Yeah.
people. So what motivates me to do and work as much as are my kids,
Yeah.
right? My wife and kids, because I do know, I look up to them and say, you know what, hey, I want to make sure, they're safe and sound, and that's one of the things because, just like any other job, right? So one days you wake up and you're like, oh man, I don't want to do this,
Hmm.
but then it's up to you to pick yourself up,
Yeah.
and don't allow that little small talk or something and try to bring you down and you just gotta suck it up sometimes and just do it.
How long have you been married for?
So I've been married now since 2013.
Well,
So we just
congrats.
thank you.
Right over 10 years.
Yeah. So actually, my wife and I next year we're actually going to Italy to even though it's gonna be past 10 years,
Hmm.
but we're gonna be celebrating our 12, 10 year. Wedding anniversary, and we got some friends and family coming over, which is going to be an interesting thing.
Sure.
So we're definitely looking forward to it.
That's amazing. I mean, and it seems like you guys have a great relationship. I've seen her the couple times that she's come in here, so congrats to you. Hats off.
Thanks, man.
One of the biggest things that, and I think, again, you have a lot more responsibility than I do, but it's motivation, but it's dedication in obtaining responsibility towards something. So whether that's
Right.
your health, your fitness, your diet, your family, responsibility is needed, and you need that dedication to something and show responsibility to become successful. I know that you have a very strict schedule outside of just waking up early and starting your day with a win, but like even as far as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you have it all mapped out, right?
Correct. So every day of the week I have it mapped out.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, there are going to be on a day and a Monday that even though I block my time to do some sort of activities, that I may have to take a call. I may have to put out a fire. But what I do is once I'm done with it, I always go back to what I'm supposed to do.
Sure.
So, I always have a structure.
Yep.
And once again, people say, okay, yeah, but you're telling me your day flows perfectly every day? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
We're in the mortgage industry. There's never a dull
I
moment.
think we're firefighters. We're
You know,
the people that kick a loan in, and then we just put out the fires until it gets cleared.
I agree, and then I have one of the. It's a funny thing is I had somebody asking me, "Hey man, do you do this?" I'm like, "No man, I don't do no drugs. I do mortgages." They
Yeah.
started cracking up. I'm like, "No, that's adrenaline enough for me."
Yeah.
That and my celsius, of course, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think
so I think my days and the reason why I structure my day because it's so easy for us to get sidetracked on everything that's happening. It could be like a phone call away or a text message or something, and if you don't have that structure, if you don't have something written down that you're supposed to do,
mhm.
it really it makes you go sidetrack. It sidetracks you. So that's why I think it's so important for you. I use my Outlook all the time. Color coded. I block a time. 1 hour, I'm only doing this. I'm not taking calls. I'm only doing this. So that's why I'm very strict as far as on my schedule.
Yep.
So I can accomplish what I intend to for the day.
Is there anything that you're doing now that you think you might change, or like what something that you used to do that you've changed within recently? I would say the last year or so that you think has become more efficient for you or has worked better.
Yeah, delegating some stuff. I have a team that honestly I can do what I can because of them too. So credits
Mhm.
to them. It's a whole backbone that nobody sees a lot, but if it wasn't for them, like our BDAs or loan office assistants and our processors and everything, and then that helping me, all of us be as successful as we are.
Sure.
So and I'm really hands on,
Hmm.
and one of the things there are some of the things that really don't really require my immediate attention. That's not going to make it or break the deal.
Yeah, because I mean, doing a loan in an application, it's very personal to the client,
Right,
and you have to have a very good understanding of what's going on with that file.
right.
So when delegating, it is I can understand kind of the holdback on doing it, because I'm a very controlling type of person with my process, right?
Same here.
And like if I have a client call me and say what's blah blah blah, and I'm like I have no idea what you're talking about, like it's gonna make my stomach sink.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I completely get that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What you focus on the Hispanic and Spanish community, right?
So we do it all. So being from Brazil, I have a ton of Brazilian clients, right? So I mean, I do a lot of Spanish is my third language. So I mean, I've be able to speak has opened a ton of horizons for me
Hmm.
when it comes to a clientele,
Yeah, you
right?
speak four languages
Yeah,
or three
and
and
I
a
got I
half.
got a 3.5. My Italian, I got to brush it off a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's been if you don't practice, you lose it, right? Just
Sure.
like anything, and it's like muscle, right? You got the muscle memory, so it's definitely something that I need to be a little bit better at it. So yeah, so I mean the Latin you can say like the Latin, but I have a lot of American clients too.
Hmm.
But what I've noticed lately, like the emerging market, it's been more like the Hispanic, like the Latin markets, because one of the things that I've noticed, they're not really scared to buy no matter what the rate
I
is.
don't think they're. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think they're really too concerned about the interest rate. Like they want to get a home, right?
Right. Yeah, because imagine this, depending where you're from, right? Some people came from, like Cuba, for an instance, where buying a house is like nearly impossible
Yeah.
unless you have somebody here in the United States giving you money for it.
What are the interest rates? Do you have any idea what they
I
are?
have no idea,
No.
but I'll give an example. An interest rate in Brazil. So when I was talking to my dad about it the other day. It's like, Dad, rates drop a little bit. I'm super happy about it. He goes, where they are? I'm like, 6.5, 6.8. They're like, that's amazing. And I'm like, no, that's still kind of high for a standard. He goes, compared to what? So, rates in Brazil are 4.25, 3.8 monthly, not yearly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So when you're talking about somebody buying at a 7% and an 8% interest rate yearly, you're like, it's cheap money.
Yeah.
Why not finance it,
What what is the biggest hurdle that you typically have to do? Is it like foreign national type buyers, or what is a lot of the clientele that you personally get that is the hurdle to come across?
So foreign national loans, right? So a lot of we do a ton of foreign national loans here.
Mhm.
I mean our product is amazing how we do it. We don't really require that many type of documents, but the only thing is when you try to tell somebody from a different country, right? Hey, I need this document. They're like, that makes no sense. But I was like, yeah, but that's it's required for you to get a loan here in the United States.
Sure.
So I mean, sometimes try to educate them, right, and then try to explain the process. When you have somebody that have they have bought multiple properties in their own country, and not trying to
Yeah, I'm
change
sure
their
it's
mind,
completely different here.
but you just try to say, hey, I'm sorry, I know it may not make sense, but this is what we need in order to get it done.
Uh-huh.
So I'd say that's it's challenging sometimes, but when you feel like, hey, I'm here alongside you, you and I are a team. When you feel like the client puts the arms down and say, okay, let's lock arms and let's do it together.
Hmm.
I think that's it makes the process go a lot more smoother. So I say foreign national sometimes because of I wouldn't say a language barrier, but because of the how the process works in their country versus
Yeah.
how it works
And I
here.
feel like I dated a girl, she was Colombian, and I feel like the Hispanic community puts a lot of trust in you too, right?
Right,
Which is probably why you're able to generate so much business. Not to say that you don't work hard, but
right.
like right, like I think it's a like even with Middle Eastern people, I know like if you get in with one of the family members and you treat them good, like
Oh, they're
you
super
get the whole
loyal. They're
you
so
get the
loyal.
whole entire community. So that's awesome. But so do you think that you're going to be able to beat or compare to last year's production levels, or what do you see with this market today? Because I've noticed a surge just in the last 2 weeks of like applications and I think everybody's kind of getting past the holidays now, and they're seeing that tax return money, and
Right.
you can buy a house now with just your tax return, depending on how much you're getting back. So
Exactly. Exactly. And if you're able to negotiate and get the seller to
that's
pay
what
your
I'm
closing
saying. Yeah,
costs, it costs you nothing.
yeah,
I mean, of course, you pay tax throughout the year, which I'm not saying nothing, but
sure.
it's something that you didn't expect.
Yep.
You know, um, I do have high expectations for this year.
Hmm.
I do think that even though it's going to be a challenging year, I do think it's going to create a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that are sitting on the fence to buy the house already realize in Florida, there's different markets, right?
Correct.
That home prices are not going to come down.
Correct.
We may have a correction, a percent or two, even though we haven't really seen any retraction in the market, you know. But they also realize their rates are not going to come down as fast as most people were thinking it would.
Yeah.
So I think that, what, that's our chance.
I don't think rates, and I was watching a podcast on it. I think it was Patrick Bet David, his podcast, and he says the reason why rates, and it makes sense that rates can't just come down. Like we're not going to jump into fours by the end of this year, is because it's going to create hyperinflation,
Oh,
right? Because then
absolutely.
everybody's going to go back in the whole housing market. Like everybody's just going to be like a kid in a candy store, and
Right.
then everything that we just went through these past 2 years is just going to be out the door. And so they have to do it, but they have to be methodical about it. Like there has to be, they'll pull it back, but it might be like 25 basis points and then pause, and 25 basis points and then pause
Right.
for the next meeting and stuff. But yeah, it will get down. But I think we've kind of peaked, and as soon as consumer confidence starts coming back into the market, seeing those rates, and I think 5 is a psychological level. I think there's going to be a lot of demand coming through. So
Yeah. No, no, no. I believe you, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. I would not want to be sitting on the Fed's seat right now because I do know they have a very tough task. Because if they drop rates super low, like fast, like you said, I mean, you could actually cause the market to,
yeah, you'll get
you know.
like what Venezuela and stuff is doing with their hyperinflation,
Oh
and
no, it's crazy. I mean, it's just insane what's happening right now. So, but I do believe that this year will be a good year. And people ask me when is the right time to buy. I'm like, whenever you're ready for
when
it.
you can afford the payment and it makes sense, because rent's not going anywhere. Rent's going to
No,
keep going up.
yeah,
So
insurance is going up, right, for houses. So what's happening is your landlord is going to have to charge more money for it,
yeah,
which that means that they cannot lower your monthly rent.
yeah,
So I mean, there are a lot of reasons why I think this year more and more people are going to look to purchase. And that's how you create wealth as well too. Think about this. I mean, one year now, a lot of people complain, oh, but my payments it's going to be a little bit higher, but portion of your payment is actually your own money. It's principal,
mm-hmm,
like you buying down what your debt that you currently have.
yeah,
The interest, guess what? You do get to write off on your tax returns. Don't get me wrong, you're not going to get a ton of it back, but it could very well lower your tax bracket. And then, if you want to go a little more into depth, as far as we do a ton of down payment assistance. I know you do a great job at it too. And, the Home Sweet Home that will end up to $25,000, depending on credit, purchase price, and whatnot. So there's that MCC credit that, that a borrower, if they qualify for this type of loan, right? So here, this is crazy. And then if they qualify, if the income does not go up by up to a certain amount, every single year, as they filing a tax return, they'll get $2,000 back.
really. I actually didn't know that
Yeah.
part.
So that is actually so certain that you're gonna get it that even when you qualify in a client for the Home Sweet Home product,
You have that in his
you
income.
can actually, yeah, $166 monthly,
Huh.
and that's called an MCC credit. So guess what? And then you get a certificate, and then every single year, as you go file your taxes, as long as you don't refinance it, and as long as your income doesn't change more than a certain amount,
Yeah.
you get $2,000 back every single year.
That's great. Wow. Yeah, I mean, even I know people, they're just on the fence because they don't think that they can qualify, right? But we have stuff in place, and I think I just heard you doing a rescore for someone the other day, but like, we have a system that generates it's called a rescore, but an idea of what we can do and gives you exact balances in a methodical order of how to jump a credit score, and we can accurately gauge if we can bring you up above a certain threshold that you need to be to qualify, right? Because
Correct.
VA, you can go below 580, but it's going to depend on other factors, and then
Right.
FHA, and it can go down to 580 and then so forth. So,
Right.
but
Yeah, but like you said, it's a great tool. So whenever we get a client, and I think that's something that you do really well as well too, that we do very well here at Embrace, is that we don't look at every client just like a type of it's a loan. You qualify for a convention, you qualify for FHA. No, no, no. Okay, Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. Let's see, okay, what else can we do to set up a really nice strategy
Hmm.
so we can just do customize something just for you,
Sure.
because you're going to be different than me, and they're going to be different than him and then her and whatnot. So every client is completely different when it comes to financing, And it's funny, and I'm sure you heard all the time, oh, but Alvaro, my client got this rate. You were able to qualify. I mean, my neighbor. You were able to qualify my neighbor, my cousin this way. I'm like, everybody's
Completely
different.
different. Yeah, the biggest thing that I hate is when someone says, "What's your rate?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Zero.
You know, what do you want? We can. I mean, FHA, VA, they're all different. How much you put down? You want to do an investment product? I mean, there's like 7 different factors that go into to
Yeah,
determining
and the
dictating the
economy,
rate.
what's happening too. I
Yeah.
mean, what happening? Inflation affects interest
And you
rates.
can ask me this Thursday next week, and I'm going to give you a completely different rate for you personally than I am going to today. So it's
Exactly.
crazy. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on today. But I'm looking forward to this year, and I know we're going to crush it. So
No, we will,
looking
man.
forward to it. All right, man.
Thanks for having me,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Take care.